My name is Marcus Bennett, and for 32 years I believed a man's whole life was supposed to lead to one thing, a son to carry his name forward. I built houses for a living. Foundations, frames, roofs, things you could stand on. I figured a family worked the same way. You pour everything into the one who's going to hold it up after you're gone. I picked wrong. I just didn't know it yet. You're doing it again, Sam said, sliding into the chair across from me at the diner. He'd known me since we were 22 years old, pouring concrete in the summer heat. I can see it on your face. What's Ethan need this time? It's not like that. It's always like that. I turned my coffee cup in a slow circle. He's got a real shot at this one, Sam. A logistics company. Says the margins are good. Says his old boss from the warehouse is putting money in too. Didn't he say that about the restaurant? And the car detailing thing before that? This is different. You said that both times too. I didn't answer him. Some part of me knew he was right, but admitting it out loud felt like admitting I'd wasted something I could never get back. 12 years of it. Every time Ethan called with that particular tone in his voice, hopeful, a little scared, trying to sound like a grown man instead of a boy asking his father to fix something, I said yes before I even let myself think about saying no. How much is he asking for? Sam said, 40,000. Sam set his fork down. Marcus, I know what it sounds like. Do you? Because that's not help anymore. That's a hole you're throwing money into. I thought about telling him he didn't understand, that he only had daughters, that he didn't know what it was like to watch your own name walk around in another man's body, needing you. But that wasn't fair to Sam, and some quieter part of me knew it wasn't really true anyway. I just didn't want to hear it. Grace never asked me for anything, I said instead, like it proved something. That's my point, Sam said. Doesn't that tell you something? I remembered Diane saying almost the exact same thing to me once, years before she passed. We'd been sitting on the back porch, and I was going on about how proud I was that Ethan wanted to carry on the Bennett name through some business venture or another. Diane had been quiet a long time, and then she said it, soft, not accusing, just tired. Don't let pride choose your children for you, Marcus. I hadn't understood it then. I told her I didn't know what she meant, and she just shook her head and let it go, the way she let a lot of things go with me. I wish now I'd asked her to explain it instead of brushing past it like I brushed past most things that made me uncomfortable. You're quiet, Sam said. Just thinking. About Diane. About Grace, actually. What about her? She called last week. Left a message. Said she wanted to talk about something, but she didn't say what. Did you call her back? Not yet. Sam leaned back in the booth and studied me the way he used to study a foundation before he'd let a crew pour concrete on it, like he was checking for cracks he already suspected were there. You call Ethan back the same day, every time. Sometimes the same hour. That's different. Ethan tells me what he needs. And Grace doesn't. Grace doesn't need anything from me. Never has. Everybody needs something, Marcus. Some people just stop asking after a while, because they figure out asking doesn't get them anywhere. I didn't like the way that sat in my chest, so I changed the subject, the way I usually did when Sam got too close to something true. We talked about the Hendricks job, the crew he still ran part-time, the Sunday game coming up. But it stayed there anyway, under everything else, the way a splinter stays under skin even after you stop noticing it's hurting. Grace had put herself through nursing school on loans and double shifts at a diner not much different from the one Sam and I were sitting in. I never gave her a dime for it. Not because I didn't have it. I did, plenty, at the time, but because she never asked, and somehow that made it easy for me to never offer. She'd graduated with honors. I sent flowers. I didn't go to the ceremony because Ethan had a big meeting that same week and I wanted to be there in case he needed me. I told myself at the time that Grace understood. She was strong. She didn't need me the way Ethan did. I know now that's not the same as not needing me at all. My phone buzzed on the table. Grace's name lit up the screen. I looked at it for a second too long. You gonna get that? Sam asked. I'll call her back tonight. Marcus. I will. I let it ring out. I told myself it was because I was in the middle of something with Sam, but the truth sat closer to the surface than I wanted it to. I already knew what she probably wanted to talk about. and it wasn't good news, and I didn't have the energy that day to hold two of my children's problems in my hands at once. So I put the phone face down and finished my coffee instead. You know, Sam said, watching me do it, one day one of them's gonna stop calling, and you're not going to get to pick which one. That's supposed to scare me. It's supposed to wake you up. Same thing, most days. I laughed it off, but it didn't feel like a laugh. It felt like something I did with my mouth so I wouldn't have to answer him honestly. That afternoon I drove to the bank. Mr. Alvarez wasn't at the counter that day. Some younger fellow helped me, barely looked 25, moved through the paperwork like he'd done it 1,000 times and none of it meant anything. $40,000. I signed where he told me to sign. My hand didn't even shake. I called Ethan from the parking lot. It's done, I said. The transfer's going through today. Dad. His voice cracked a little, the way it used to when he was a boy and I'd fix something he'd broken before his mother found out. Dad, you don't know what this means. I swear to you, this is the one. I'm going to make you proud. You already make me proud, I said, and I meant it, even though some small, honest corner of my mind was already whispering that I'd said those same words 2 times before, for 2 other ventures, both of which were gone now, folded up and forgotten, the money along with them. I won't let you down. I know you won't. Hey, you tell Grace. She's gonna say I don't need your help forever. You know how she gets. I'll tell her when I see her. You're the best, Dad. I mean it. This is the last time. After this one, I'm set. You won't have to do this again. Okay, son. I love you. Love you too. I sat in that parking lot a long time after we hung up. My phone still showed Grace's missed call, sitting there on the screen like something I'd stepped over on my way out the door. I told myself I'd call her that night. I told myself there'd be time. I started the truck and drove home. And somewhere in the back of my mind, quiet and small, Diane's voice was still saying the same 6 words she'd said years before, the ones I still hadn't learned to hear. Don't let pride choose your children for you. That night I sat in my recliner with the television on and the sound turned low, and I let my thumb hover over Grace's name in my phone more than once. Each time, I told myself something small. It's late, she's probably working, I'll catch her fresh in the morning. And each time, I put the phone down without dialing. It wasn't that I didn't want to talk to her. It was that some part of me had already decided, without ever saying it out loud, that whatever she needed could wait, because it always had before, because she'd never once made me feel like it couldn't. I didn't call Grace that night. I told myself I was tired. I told myself tomorrow. I didn't know yet how much that one missed call was going to cost me. The glass slipped out of my hand before I understood why. I heard it break on the kitchen floor, far away, like it belonged to someone else's kitchen. My right arm wouldn't answer me. I tried to say something, anything, and my mouth moved, but the words came out folded wrong, thick, not mine. What? I got that far. Just that. I went down slow, one hand catching the counter, missing it, my knees hitting tile. The room tilted sideways and stayed there. I could see the phone on the counter above me, close enough to touch if my arm had still belonged to me. Move, I told it. Move. Nothing. I don't know how long I lay there. Long enough for the light through the window to change. Long enough to be afraid in a way I'd never let myself be afraid before, not of dying, exactly, but of being trapped inside my own body while it stopped listening to me, one piece at a time. I thought about Diane. I thought, stupidly, about the bank transfer, about Ethan's voice on the phone saying I love you, about Grace's missed call still sitting unanswered on my phone somewhere above me on the counter. I tried to call out. What came out wasn't a word. It was closer to a sound an animal makes. Somebody find me, I thought. Somebody please find me. The first voice I understood clearly was a woman's, calm, close to my ear. Mr. Bennett. Marcus. Can you hear me? I opened my eyes to white ceiling tile and a blood pressure cuff tightening around my arm. There he is, she said. I'm Nurse Patel. You're at St. Vincent's. You had a stroke, but you're stable now. Can you squeeze my hand? I squeezed it. Weak, but it worked. Some small relief moved through me at that. My hand still knew how to listen, even if the rest of me had forgotten how for a while. Good, she said. Your speech might be a little slow for a while. That's normal. Don't push it. Ethan, I managed. It came out slurred, but she understood. Your son signed some paperwork earlier, she said. He stepped out. Stepped out where? I'm not sure. I think he had something with the bank. I let that sit. It didn't feel wrong yet. Ethan handling things, taking charge. That was who he was supposed to be. The son who carried things. By the third day I could talk in full sentences again, slow but steady, and I could sit up without the room tilting. Mr. Alvarez came to see me himself instead of sending someone younger, which should have told me something before he ever opened his mouth. Marcus, he said, pulling a chair close to the bed. How are you feeling? Better. Tired. What's going on, Frank? He didn't answer right away, and that silence scared me more than anything the doctors had said all week. When you had the stroke, he said, your son came in with the power of attorney you signed a few years back. The one for emergencies. Right. Standard stuff. He used it to move money out of your accounts, Marcus, over the last 4 days. My chest went tight. Move it where? I don't know where. I know how much. He said the number quietly, like saying it loud might make it worse. It was almost everything. Not almost gone, gone. The house payment cushion, the retirement account I'd built up over 30 years of pouring concrete in July heat, the money I'd told myself was there in case something exactly like this happened. That can't be right, I said. He wouldn't. I wanted to believe that too. I've known you both a long time. I'm sorry, Marcus. There has to be a mistake. Call him. Get him on the phone. We tried. His number isn't going through. I stared at the ceiling tile like it might rearrange itself into an answer that made sense. He was here. Nurse Patel said he signed paperwork. He was right here. He was here for the paperwork, Mr. Alvarez said. I don't know how long after that he stayed. What about Renee, his wife? Have you tried her? I don't have her number, Marcus. That's not something the bank keeps on file. Get it from someone, please, Frank. I'll ask around, he said. I will. But I need you to hear what I'm telling you, because I don't think it's going to get easier to hear later. The withdrawals didn't happen all at once, like a man in a panic trying to cover an emergency bill. They happened over 4 days, in pieces, spread across different accounts. That's not someone making a mistake under pressure. You're saying he planned it. I'm saying it doesn't look like an accident. I didn't say anything for a long time. Frank sat with me anyway, which I appreciated more than I had words for right then. I'll do what I can on my end, he finally said. But Marcus, I think you need to prepare yourself. This doesn't look like an accident. Nurse Patel came in that evening to check my vitals, humming something under her breath, moving around the room the way people do when they've done a job so many times their hands know it better than their thoughts do. You've got some color back, she said. That's good. Where's my son? I said. It wasn't really a question anymore. It was just a thing I kept saying, hoping the answer would change if I asked it enough times. I haven't seen him since day one, she said, not unkindly. I'm sorry. He signed paperwork. I remember. He didn't stay long after. How long is not long? An hour? Maybe. He was on his phone most of that time, out in the hallway. I don't say that to hurt you, Mr. Bennett. You asked. I did. I looked at my hands, one of them still not entirely mine yet. Thank you for not softening it. I don't think softening it helps anybody heal faster, she said. In my experience, it just delays the part where you start. I closed my eyes. My daughter. Has anyone called my daughter? Nurse Patel gave me a strange look, like I'd asked something she assumed I already knew. Your daughter's been here every night, she said. She leaves before shift change so she can make it to work by 7. She was in that chair right there until about 2 hours ago. I looked at the chair by the window. There was a folded blanket on it, and a paperback book with a bent spine, and a granola bar wrapper someone had tucked neatly into the trash instead of leaving on the tray table. Every night, I said. Every single one. She brought Lily by on Sunday, but your granddaughter got restless, so she took her home and came back after. I told her she should sleep. She said she'd sleep when you woke up all the way. Something cracked open in my chest that had nothing to do with the stroke. She didn't say anything, I said, About the money. About any of it. I don't know anything about money, Mr. Bennett. I just know who's been sitting in that chair. Did she say anything? About why she kept coming, when I never... I stopped myself, not sure how to finish that sentence in front of a stranger. She didn't say much at all, honestly. First night, she just sat down and said, "Here's my dad." Like that was the whole explanation. Like it didn't need anything else added to it. I stared at the empty chair for a long time after Nurse Patel left the room. The blanket. The book. The wrapper folded small enough not to bother anyone. Ethan had my power of attorney, my savings, my trust, 32 years of believing he was the one who'd carry my name forward. Grace had a folding chair by a hospital window, and she'd used it every night without telling me once. I thought about the missed call. I thought about telling myself tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, until tomorrow became this, a hospital bed, an empty account, and a son I couldn't reach. I picked up the phone on the nightstand with my good hand. My fingers still didn't want to work right, but I found her name. The phone rang twice before she picked up. "Dad." Her voice caught, surprised, like she hadn't expected me to be the one calling. "Are you okay? Is something wrong?" "I'm okay," I said. "I mean, I'm here. I'm awake. I was going to come by after my shift. I didn't want to wake you." "Grace." I stopped, not sure how to say the rest of it, all the things I hadn't said in years stacking up behind that one word. "The nurse told me you've been here every night." Silence on the other end, just long enough for me to hear her breathing. "Somebody had to be," she finally said, quiet, not looking for credit, not looking for anything at all. "You're my dad. Where else would I be?" I didn't know yet what I was going to say to her next. I only knew I couldn't wait one more night to find out if she'd still pick up. I came home from the hospital on a Tuesday, and Grace was the one who drove me. She'd rearranged her whole schedule around mine without ever making it sound like a sacrifice. Physical therapy on Mondays and Thursdays. Doctor's appointments squeezed in before her hospital shifts. Groceries left in my fridge without a word. The kind of food a nurse buys for a man who just had a stroke. Low sodium, easy to chew, nothing that would slow me back down. "You don't have to do all this," I told her one evening, watching her lay out my pills into the little plastic case with the days of the week printed on it. "I know I don't have to," she said, not looking up. "Tuesday's the blood thinner and the blood pressure one together. Don't skip it because you feel fine. Feeling fine is what it's supposed to do." "Grace." "What?" "Thank you." She finally looked at me, something unreadable behind her eyes, and then went back to the pill case like I hadn't said anything at all. Lily came with her some evenings, 7 years old and full of questions I didn't always know how to answer. "Grandpa, why does your hand shake like that?" "Getting better every day, kiddo. Mom says you have to do your exercises even when you don't want to. Your mom's usually right about things." "She's right about everything," Lily said, very seriously, and Grace, from the kitchen, said, "Damn right," without turning around, and it was the first time I'd heard her laugh in weeks. One night, after Lily had fallen asleep on the couch and Grace was folding a blanket over her, I found myself talking before I'd decided to. "I missed your college graduation," I said. "You know that, right?" "I know you know it. I just don't think I ever said it out loud." She didn't stop folding the blanket. "You were at Ethan's. He was getting his associates from a 2-year program he almost didn't finish. You were graduating with honors. You sent flowers." "I sent flowers because Ethan's ceremony was the same week, and I told myself you'd understand, because you always understood everything without me having to explain it." Grace set the blanket down on the arm of the couch, slow and careful, like she was giving herself a second to decide whether to say what came next. "Do you remember my 25th birthday?" she asked. "Remind me." "You canceled dinner because Ethan needed help moving into his new apartment. The one from the restaurant investment. You said you'd make it up to me. You didn't." I opened my mouth to defend myself and found I didn't have anything to say that wouldn't sound small next to what she'd just told me. "I'm not telling you this to punish you," she said. "You asked. I'm just answering." "I know. You always thought I was fine because I never cried in front of you. That's not the same thing as fine, Dad. I just learned early that crying in front of you didn't change anything, so I stopped doing it where you could see." I didn't know that's how it felt to you. You never asked. I let that sit a moment. I'm asking now. Now's 30 years late, she said, but there was no venom in it, just tiredness. I'm not saying that to hurt you. I'm saying it because it's the truth, and I think you need to actually hear it instead of just being sorry about it in general. The wedding fund, I said, because it was sitting there too, and I figured if we were doing this, we might as well do all of it. I gave Ethan money for his wedding, and then I gave him more a year later when he said the first amount got eaten up by fees. Twice, Grace said. You gave it to him twice. I paid for my own wedding, she added. Every bit of it. Mine and Danny, my ex, not Ethan's friend Danny, different Danny. We did it on our own, because I never thought to ask you, because I already knew what the answer would feel like even if the answer was yes. That's not fair. No, she said, it's not, but it's true, and those aren't always the same thing. Renee came by 2 days later, alone, without calling first. I hadn't seen her since the hospital, and something in her face when Grace let her in told me this wasn't a friendly visit. I didn't know, Renee said, sitting stiff on the edge of my couch, not touching the coffee Grace set in front of her. I want you to know that. I didn't know how bad it had gotten. How bad what had gotten? The money. All of it. I thought the logistics thing was real, Marcus. I thought this time was different. She wrapped both hands around the coffee cup without drinking from it. There was a Danny, his old business partner. Danny called me looking for Ethan 2 days ago, asking if I knew where he went, because apparently this isn't the first time Ethan's disappeared right after asking someone for money. What do you mean, not the first time? I mean there was a version of this before us, before you knew about it. Danny wouldn't say much more than that, but he sounded like a man who'd already given up trying to get his money back a long time ago. I looked at Grace, who was standing in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, not saying anything, but not looking surprised either. You knew, I said to her. I suspected, she said. I never had proof. I didn't want to be the one who told you your son was a con artist without something to back it up. How long did you suspect? Grace uncrossed her arms and sat down slowly across from Renee, choosing her words the way she chose everything, careful, like she'd already thought them through long before this moment arrived. Since his second business folded, the car detailing one. He told you it was bad luck, a partner who bailed on him. I looked into it a little, off the record, because a friend of mine knew someone who'd worked there. It wasn't bad luck. He'd been pulling money out of the operating account for months before it closed. You never told me. I tried once. You told me I didn't understand business, and that Ethan was figuring things out, and that I should be more supportive of my brother. So I stopped trying. Renee flinched at that, like it confirmed something she'd already been afraid of. He does that, she said quietly. He makes you feel like doubting him is the same as betraying him. I believed that for 6 years. What changed? I asked her. You did, Renee said. Watching him leave you in that hospital bed and go straight for the bank instead of straight to your room, I couldn't tell myself a story that made that okay anymore. I've been telling myself stories about Ethan for a long time, Marcus. I think I just ran out of new ones. Sam came by that Friday, and I told him everything, the flashbacks, Renee, Danny, the wedding fund, the birthday. He listened the whole way through without interrupting, which for Sam was its own kind of statement. When I finished, he didn't soften anything. You didn't lose your money, Marcus, he said. You lost your daughter years ago, and you never noticed because she never made enough noise for you to have to. That's not, I started, and then stopped because I didn't actually know how that sentence was going to end. That's the thing about you, Marcus, Sam said. You've never once been a cruel man. You just decided a long time ago which of your kids counted, and you never once went back to check if you decided right. She sat in a hospital chair every night for 2 weeks, Sam said. She's filling your pill case. She's raising a kid on a nurse's salary and still finding time to make sure you eat something green once a day. And somewhere in your head, some part of you is still treating that like it's just Grace being Grace. Like it doesn't count for anything, because she never once made you feel guilty for not noticing. I sat with that a long time after Sam left. I thought about 32 years of believing a son was supposed to carry a family forward, and how the whole time, it had been my daughter carrying me, quietly, without once asking me to notice. I picked up my phone and looked at the photo I still had as my background. Ethan at 19, grinning at some job site, my arm around him like I'd built him myself out of the same concrete I poured for a living. I didn't change it that night. I just looked at it a long time. And for the first time, I let myself wonder how many photos I even had of Grace from around that same age, and whether I'd have to go looking to find one at all. I just never looked down long enough to see her doing it. I found the letter by accident, looking for tax papers in the closet Diane used to call her someday box. It was a showbox full of things she never got around to sorting. Old photographs, a church bulletin from Ethan's christening, a folded piece of stationery with her handwriting on it, addressed to no one. I almost put it back without reading it. Something told me not to. Marcus, I don't know if I'll ever say this to you out loud, so I'm writing it down instead, the way I do with things I'm afraid of saying wrong. I think you're raising one child to take and one to give, and I don't think you see it, and I don't know how to make you see it without you getting angry at me for saying it. Ethan asks and you answer. Grace gives and you let her. One day you're going to look up and realize you spent everything you had on the child who never had to earn it, and the child who earned everything on her own is going to be standing there wondering why she was never enough just for existing. I love you. I love both our children. But I'm scared for Grace in a way I've never said to you, and I think it's time I did. Diane. There was no date on it. I sat on the closet floor a long time, holding a piece of paper my wife had written and never sent, saying the exact thing Sam had said to me a week before, in almost the exact same words, like the two of them had somehow compared notes across a decade and a grave. I read it 3 more times before I could make myself stand up. I called Grace and asked if she'd come by. She said she had an hour before Lily needed picking up from a friend's house, and she'd stop in on the way. She found me still holding the letter. What's that? She asked. Something your mother wrote a long time ago. I want to read it to you, if that's all right. I read it out loud, and my voice shook on the line about the child who never had to earn it, and I had to stop for a second before I could finish. When I looked up, Grace's eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying the way I expected. She looked more tired than sad. She never told me any of that, Grace said. She never told me either. Not straight out. I think she tried, once, on the porch, and I didn't understand what she meant, and she let it go. That sounds like her. She always let things go with you. Not because she agreed with me. I think now she just got tired of being the only one fighting that fight in the house. I remember her being tired a lot, honestly. I never understood why until right now. I don't want to let this go, I said. I want to change it. Starting now. No conditions, no waiting for the right moment. I just want to be the father to you that I should have been the whole time. Grace was quiet for a moment, and I braced myself, because some part of me had hoped saying it out loud might be enough, and I already knew from her face that it wasn't. I need you to actually hear me first, she said. Not fix it. Just hear it. Okay. You missed my 16th birthday because Ethan had a baseball tournament 3 states away, and you drove him, and you told me you'd make it up to me, and you didn't. You missed my college graduation for his associate's degree ceremony. You gave him money for a restaurant, and then a car detailing business, and then a wedding, twice, and every single time, you called it helping him get on his feet, like there was something wrong with my feet for never needing your help to stand on them. Grace. I'm not finished. Her voice stayed even, which somehow made it harder to hear than if she'd yelled. When I had Lily, alone, no husband in the picture, you asked me if I was sure I could handle it by myself. Not if I needed help. If I could handle it. Like the assumption was I couldn't, and Ethan's assumption was always that he could, even when he proved over and over that he couldn't. I sat with every one of those, and I didn't defend myself, because for the first time I understood that defending myself was exactly the wrong thing to do. I'm sorry, I said. I know that's not enough. It's not nothing, either, she said. I'm not saying that to be cruel. I'm saying I need time. You don't get to say sorry once and have 30 years disappear. I want to believe you. I'm just not there yet. That's fair. Is it? Because it doesn't feel fair. It feels exhausting, actually, being the one who has to decide whether to trust you again, on top of everything else I've been carrying. Tell me what would help. I'm not asking so you'll forgive me faster. I'm asking because I don't want to keep guessing wrong. Stop asking me to make you feel better about it, she said. That's what would help. Let me be angry without you needing it fixed by the end of the conversation. You've spent my whole life needing things wrapped up neatly. Just let this one stay open for a while. Okay, I said. I can do that. You don't have to decide today. No, she said. I don't. And I'm not going to. We sat in silence for a while after that. Not an angry silence, just a heavy one, the kind that comes after two people finally say true things to each other instead of comfortable ones. My phone rang before Grace left. An unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, and then something made me answer. Marcus Bennett. Speaking. This is Danny. Renee gave me your number. I used to be Ethan's business partner, back with the logistics thing. I'm sorry to call out of nowhere, but I'm trying to find him, and I figured you might know something I don't. I don't know anything. He's gone. Took what was left of my savings with him. There was a pause on the line, the kind that told me Danny wasn't surprised, just tired in a way that matched something I recognized in myself. That's what he did to me too, Danny said. 2 years ago. Different investors, different story, but same move. He gets people to trust him with money using someone else's name as collateral. This time it sounds like it was yours, and then he disappears right when things get hard enough that he'd have to actually be accountable. Why didn't you tell anyone? I tried telling Renee once. She didn't want to hear it. I think some part of her already knew and wasn't ready to know it all the way. I'm guessing that's changed now. It has. I'm sorry, Marcus. For what it's worth, I don't think he even sees it as stealing. I think in his head, it's always just borrowing from people who love him too much to stop him. After we hung up, I sat there a long time, the letter still open on the table beside me, Diane's handwriting looking back up at me like she'd known this exact moment was coming, years before either of us did. I thought about calling Ethan one more time, just to hear whatever excuse he'd come up with, just to feel like I'd done something instead of sitting in a quiet house with a phone that wasn't ringing. I didn't. I put the phone down instead and picked the letter back up, and I read it once more, slower this time, letting every line land the way Diane must have wanted it to land the first time she wrote it and never sent it. I have to get Lily, she said. Thank you for reading it to me. Grace. She stopped in the doorway. I mean it, I said. Starting now. However long it takes you to believe that, I'll still mean it. She didn't answer right away. She stood there a moment, one hand on the frame of the door, looking at me like she was deciding how much of what I'd said she was allowed to let herself believe yet. I heard you, she finally said. That's all I can give you tonight. I heard you. That's enough for tonight. Is it? A small, tired smile crossed her face, the first one I'd seen from her all evening. You used to say that wasn't enough. You used to need the whole thing settled before you could sleep. I'm working on that too. She nodded once, small, and left, and I stood in the doorway a long moment after her car pulled away, feeling something in my chest that wasn't quite relief and wasn't quite grief, just the strange, aching space in between the two. Ethan showed up on a Sunday, 3 weeks after he'd disappeared, like no time had passed at all. I heard the truck in the driveway before I saw him, and for 1 second, just one, some old part of me lit up the way it always used to when I heard that engine, the part of me that still believed his showing up meant something good was coming. Then I remembered why he'd gone quiet in the first place, and the light in me went out just as fast as it had come on. He came in through the side door like he still lived there. Dad. He looked thinner than I remembered, tired around the eyes in a way that used to make me want to fix whatever was wrong. I know you're probably upset. Upset? I set my coffee down carefully, because my hand wanted to shake and I didn't want him to see it. That's the word you're using. The logistics thing fell through. It wasn't my fault. The partner backed out at the last minute, and I had to cover some costs to keep it from collapsing completely, and I know it looked bad, moving the money like that while you were in the hospital, but I panicked, Dad. I panicked and I made a bad call. You didn't call an ambulance. You called the bank. I knew you were being taken care of. I checked in. You checked in with Mr. Alvarez, not with me. Ethan's jaw tightened. The same look he used to get as a boy when a story he was telling started falling apart in his own mouth. Look, I need to ask you something, and I need you to actually hear me before you say no. Say it. I need 40 more. I know how that sounds. But there's a way to fix this, to get back what I lost and pay you back everything, if I just have a little more runway. Runway. That's a word for airplanes, Ethan, not a word for money that was supposed to be my retirement. It's a figure of speech, Dad. I know what it is. I'm telling you I'm tired of hearing it. Every time you've come to me with a new plan, it's had a new word attached to it that made it sound like it was already halfway to working. Runway. Margins. Investors. I stopped asking what any of those words actually meant a long time ago, because I didn't want to hear an answer that might make me say no. And now you want to say no. Now I finally understand what saying yes cost. I laughed. It surprised both of us, I think, how easily it came out. 40 more. Dad. No. You haven't even heard the plan. I don't need to hear the plan, Ethan. I heard the last 3. Renee, who'd come in behind him without either of us noticing, sat down slowly at the kitchen table, her coat still on, like she wasn't sure if she was staying. Ethan, she said, quiet. Don't do this here. Stay out of it, Renee. I've stayed out of it for 6 years, she said, and something in her voice made both of us stop and look at her. I stayed out of it when the restaurant closed. I stayed out of it when the car detailing thing folded and you told me it was the economy's fault. I stayed out of it when Danny called me looking for money you owed him that I didn't even know existed. I'm done staying out of it. This isn't about us. It's exactly about us, she said. Because I keep choosing to believe you over people who've actually been telling me the truth, and I'm so tired, Ethan. I'm so tired of being the last one to know. Ethan turned back to me, ignoring her, the way he always ignored anything that didn't move him closer to what he wanted. Is this Grace's doing? Did she get to you? Because ever since the hospital, it's like she's replaced me. Like 30 years of me being your son doesn't count for anything the second she decides to play nurse for a few weeks. She didn't play anything, I said. She sat in a chair by my hospital bed every single night while you were withdrawing my savings in the hallway outside my room. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened, Ethan. Mr. Alvarez told me himself. Nurse Patel told me herself. You want to keep pretending it went down some other way? You go right ahead, but I was there, and I know the truth now, even if it took me 30 years too long to see it. So that's it? You're just done with me? Over money? Is that really what you think this is? I asked. Over money? Ethan, I'd have given you every dollar I had left if I thought it would actually help you. This isn't about the money anymore. It's about what handing it to you, every single time, without ever once asking you to earn it back or face what happened when it disappeared, actually did to you. And to her. So you're saying this is my fault. Not yours. I'm saying it's both of ours, and I'm done pretending it's only yours, because that's easier for me. I built the version of you that keeps doing this, Ethan. I built it one blank check at a time, but I'm not going to keep building it. Not anymore. It's more than that too, I said, and something in me finally cracked open enough to let the whole truth out, all at once, the way it should have come out years earlier. I spent your whole life giving you everything because I decided a long time ago that a son was supposed to carry the family forward, and I built my whole idea of you around that, instead of building it around who you actually were. I ignored every time you failed and called it bad luck. I funded every excuse instead of asking you to face a single consequence. And the cost of that wasn't just money, Ethan. It was your sister. Every dollar I gave you without blinking, I took from her without ever noticing I was doing it. So you're choosing her. I'm not choosing her over you, I said. I'm choosing to stop choosing you over everyone else, including yourself. You've never had to face what happens when things go wrong, because I always caught you. I'm not catching you this time. Not because I don't love you. Because loving you the way I have been was never actually helping you. Ethan stood there a long moment, and for the first time since he'd walked in, I saw something other than frustration on his face, something closer to fear, like the ground under him had finally given out the way it should have years ago. Renee, he said, turning to her. Tell him this isn't fair. Renee stood up slowly, buttoning her coat like she'd already made the decision before she ever walked through the door. I can't keep excusing you, Ethan, she said. I love who I thought you were. I don't know how much longer I can keep loving who you actually are instead. I'm going to my sister's for a while. Don't call me tonight. I need to think, and I can't think clearly around you anymore." She left without looking back, and Ethan didn't go after her, which told me something too. Some part of him had already known this was coming, the same way some part of me had known, years ago, that this whole thing was building toward a collapse I kept refusing to see. I looked past him then, toward the doorway, and found Grace standing there, arms crossed, quiet, having come by to drop off groceries and walked straight into the middle of it. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. "Grace," I said, and for the first time in my life, I said her name in front of Ethan the way I should have said it every day for 30 years, not as an afterthought, not as a comparison, just as her own name, standing on its own. "I'm glad you're here." Ethan looked between us, and something in his face finally understood what I was telling him, in front of everyone, without having to say another word. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask again. He just walked out the same door he'd walked in through, and this time, none of us followed him. I stood at the window and watched his truck pull out of the driveway, the same truck I'd helped him buy years ago with money I never once asked him to pay back. I thought I'd feel something bigger in that moment. Grief, maybe, or triumph, some clean and final feeling that matched how big the last 3 weeks had been. Instead, I just felt quiet, the way a house feels quiet after a storm has finally passed through it and left everything a little rearranged, a little clearer than it was before. Grace came up beside me and put a hand on my shoulder, the first time she'd touched me since the hospital without it being about medicine or pills or blood pressure cuffs. "You okay?" she asked. "I don't know yet," I said. "Ask me tomorrow." "I will," she said, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I believed she meant it the way I needed her to mean it, not as a formality, but as a promise she actually intended to keep. 6 months after Ethan walked out of my kitchen for the last time, I could grip a coffee cup without thinking about it, walk to the mailbox without counting my steps, and say a full sentence without my tongue catching on the hard consonants. The doctors called it a strong recovery. Sam called it stubbornness. I think it was both. The money never came back. Mr. Alvarez helped me trace what he could, but most of it had gone through accounts that closed as fast as they opened, and after a while I stopped asking him to keep looking. Chasing it felt like chasing Ethan himself, a full-time job with no finish line, built entirely around the hope that this time, finally, it would lead somewhere different. I sold the truck I didn't need anymore and downsized the house, moved into something smaller with a yard just big enough for Lily to run around in. It wasn't the retirement I'd planned for 30 years. But some mornings, sitting on the back steps with my coffee, watching the light come up over a yard I didn't have to spend a weekend mowing anymore, I found something in it I hadn't expected to find: room to breathe. Grace came by most Sundays now, sometimes with Lily, sometimes without, and slowly, without either of us making a thing of it, Sunday dinner became a habit neither of us had to plan around anymore. It just happened, the way things happen when nobody's forcing them. "You're doing the exercises Dr. Reyes gave you?" she asked one evening, watching me set the table with my right hand, still a little slower than my left, but steady. "Every day. Even the ones you hate. Especially the ones I hate." She smiled at that, small but real, and it struck me how much I'd missed seeing that exact smile over the years without ever noticing the shape of the absence. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Depends what it is. Do you think you'll ever fully trust me again? Not asking you to answer yes. I just want to know if it's something you think is even possible." Grace set down the plate she was holding and considered the question the way she considered most things, slowly, honestly, without rushing to give me the answer I wanted just to make the moment easier. "I think I already trust you more than I did 6 months ago," she said. "I don't know if fully is a real thing between two people who've hurt each other. I think trust just keeps rebuilding, a little at a time, for as long as you keep showing up. So, ask me again in a year. I'll have a better answer." "That's fair. It's the most honest one I've got. I'll take honest over comfortable. I think that's part of what I got wrong the first time around." "You wanted things settled fast," Grace said. "I remember that about you growing up. If something was uncomfortable, you wanted it fixed by dinner. I think that's part of why you never let yourself sit with how things actually were between us. Sitting with it would have meant admitting it wasn't fixed yet." "That sounds about right. I'm not saying it to pile on. I'm saying it because I think you're doing something different now, and I want you to know I've noticed." That means more than you probably realize. Ethan called twice that spring. The first time, he wanted money again, a smaller amount, framed differently. Not an investment this time, just getting back on my feet, which was its own kind of familiar. I told him no, the same way I'd told him no in my kitchen, and this time it came easier, like a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. The second call was different. No ask attached to it. Just his voice, quieter than I remembered. "I heard Renee filed," he said. "I heard that too. You could have warned me. About all of it. Instead of just cutting me off." "I did warn you, Ethan. For 30 years, every time I said yes when I should have said no, I was warning you that eventually somebody was going to stop. I just didn't say the words out loud until it was already too late for you to hear them differently." "That's not really a warning, Dad. That's just you finally getting tired of me. Maybe it looks the same from where you're standing. I don't know how to make it look different to you right now. I just know I can't keep doing what I was doing, because I finally understand what it cost, and I'm not willing to keep paying it, not with money and not with grace. So where does that leave me? Same place it leaves anyone who has to figure out how to stand on their own for the first time. I know that's not fair, exactly, since I'm the one who never let you learn how before now. But it's where we are." He was quiet a long moment. "I don't know how to be different, Dad. I don't even know where I'd start." "I don't know either. That's not something I can hand to you, the way I handed you everything else. That one you're going to have to build yourself. Would you help? If I actually tried?" "If you actually tried," I said, "I'd be glad to watch you do it. But I'm not going to fund it, and I'm not going to rescue it if it falls apart. That part's yours now." He didn't call again after that. I don't know if that means he's trying somewhere quiet, out of sight, or if he's already found someone new to ask. I've made my peace with not knowing which. I used to need to fix every uncertain thing about my children until it turned into something certain. I'm learning I don't get that with Ethan anymore, and some days that's harder to sit with than the money ever was. Sam came around most weeks too, still blunt, still exactly the friend I needed even when I didn't want to hear him. "You look lighter," he said one afternoon, watching me stack firewood slower than I used to, but without stopping halfway through anymore. "I feel lighter." Strange thing to say about a man who lost most of his savings. Money was never what was sitting heavy on you, Marcus. You know that now. I do. Took you long enough. You could have said it plainer, you know, all those years. Sam huffed a laugh. "I said it plenty plain. You just weren't ready to hear plain. Some things a man has to lose before he can hear them, no matter how many times his oldest friend puts it right in front of him. That's a hard thing to admit about yourself." "Most true things are," Sam said. "Doesn't make them less true. Diane tried to tell me. You tried to tell me. I guess I just had to lose almost everything before I could hear either one of you." Sam clapped a hand on my shoulder. "Well, you heard it eventually. That's more than a lot of men manage." On a warm evening in early June, Grace and Lily came for dinner, and Lily brought a showbox with her, the same one I'd found Diane's letter in months before. Grace must have shown it to her at some point, or Lily had gone looking on her own the way curious 7-year-olds do. "Grandpa, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Mom said Grandma Diane wrote you a letter one time that made you cry. Can I hear it? I never got to meet her." I looked at Grace, who gave a small nod, like she'd already decided this was all right before Lily ever asked. "Sure, kiddo. Come sit next to me." Lily climbed up onto the chair beside mine, and I opened the showbox and found a folded piece of stationery, worn soft now at the creases from how many times I'd unfolded and refolded it over the months. "It doesn't look like much," Lily said, peering at it. "Doesn't take much to say something true," I told her. "Sometimes the shortest things carry the most weight." I read it slowly, out loud, the way I had for Grace once before, and this time my voice didn't shake on the hard part. It just carried it, steady, the way I wished I'd been able to carry it the first time I ever needed to hear it. "I think you're raising one child to take and one to give, and I don't think you see it." Lily was quiet a moment after I finished, turning the words over the way kids do, trying them on for size. "Is that why you and Uncle Ethan don't talk as much anymore?" "That's part of it, yeah." "Is Mom the one who gives?" I looked at Grace across the table, and she looked back at me, and neither of us said anything for a second, because some things a 7-year-old can name plainer than the adults ever managed to. Your mom has been giving her whole life, I said. Longer than she should have had to, honestly. I spent a long time not noticing, and I'm trying to spend the rest of my life making up for that. That's a lot of years to make up for. It is. I'm not sure I'll ever fully catch up, but I figure showing up every Sunday is a better start than not trying at all. Is it working? Grace laughed, soft, surprised, the kind of laugh that catches you before you can stop it. Ask me again in a year, she said, echoing her own words back at me, and I laughed too, and for a moment the whole table felt lighter than it had in longer than I could remember. Later that night, after Grace had taken Lily home and the house had gone quiet again, I sat on the back steps with a letter still in my hand, looking up at a sky that didn't have much to say back to me, the way skies never do. I thought about the 32 years I'd spent building something for a son who, in the end, only ever wanted what I could give him, not who I actually was. I thought about the daughter who never asked me for a single thing, who filled a pill case every Tuesday and Thursday, who sat in a hospital chair every night without once expecting me to notice, and who somehow still found room in her to forgive a father who'd spent her whole life choosing someone else. I don't know if Ethan will ever change. Some people don't. Some people spend their whole lives taking, and the people around them either keep giving until there's nothing left, or they finally learn to stop. I learned late. Later than I should have. But I learned. I folded Diane's letter back along its worn creases and held it a moment longer before setting it down on the step beside me. I didn't get the ending I once thought I wanted. The son who carried the family name forward, proud and steady, the legacy I'd spent a lifetime building toward. I got something smaller than that, and slower, and a great deal more honest. A daughter who still shows up on Sundays. A granddaughter who asks the questions I never had the courage to ask myself. A little more time than the stroke almost took from me, and the sense, finally, to know what to do with it. It isn't the ending I set out to build. It's the one I actually earned. And these days, most nights, that's more than enough. I sat there a while longer, letting the evening settle around me, no urge left in me to fix anything or chase anything down. Just the porch light, the folded letter, and a quiet I'd finally learned to sit inside instead of rushing past. Somewhere down the road Grace was tucking Lily in, telling her some story about her grandmother I'd probably never fully know, and somewhere out past that, Ethan was living whatever life he'd chosen for himself, out of my reach now, the way it had to be. I said a quiet goodnight to no one in particular and went inside, leaving the letter on the step, right where it belonged.